I'm Katie.
I'm Anna.
She's a psychotherapist.
And she runs a photography empire. Together we make music and we podcast
to encourage ourselves
and you
to do the things that scare us most. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Doing Scary Things podcast. Today we have my great friend Evanda Estes telling us all about how she started a nonprofit from scratch all by herself and now takes care of 10 boys in Haiti. It's a fascinating story. We were all crying, and we really hope you enjoy it.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Woohoo!
Thanks for coming. Can you let everybody else know who you are and tell us a little about yourself?
Yes. My name is Evanda Estes. I'm a wife to Corey. I'm a mom to a 2-year-old, and I started a nonprofit called Revelator International.
Hey.
Yeah. 2 years ago.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Has it only been 2 years?
2016, so almost 3. July will be 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is Revelator in charge of, and tell us all about that process of starting it.
Okay, so about, I would say 7 years ago, I got invited along with my husband to go to Haiti as like leaders with a college group that was doing work in Haiti. And I've always wanted to do mission work, like ever since I was probably like 7, 8 years old. And there was like no questions. I was like, yep, doing it. Corey, on the other hand, was like, well, I don't know. This seems like a kind of scary place. They just had this crazy earthquake. I don't know if we should go. And it's like, you can stay, but I'm going. So he went as my bodyguard, is what he said. I was like, I'll protect you. So I went. It's like something that you know in your heart that you would love to do. Maybe it's like a passion as a kid or something like a daydream. And then it's like you meet it in real life. And it's like this instant connection, yeah. And you know, as soon as you are there, or as soon as you meet a specific person, and you become connected to it, you're like, oh no, this is gonna like really get a hold of me, and I don't know what's next. That was kind of the experience I had. And so I knew on my first trip, my first time meeting one of the kids at an orphanage called CAD, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be a part of my life somehow. I didn't ever think about, what about Corey? What's he going to say? It was just like, I knew 100% this is something that I've got to keep going with. So we went on that trip. We spent a week there. So it's like you see things and you just try to absorb everything. It's like your first trip, you don't know what to do. You're completely out of your comfort zone. And we went in a lot of bouncing back and forth and meeting a lot of people. We went to a specific place called CAD where I met this boy named Wilderson, and that was the moment that I had that connection. And I told Corey that night when we went in to do they did a debriefing where you talk about happies and crappies. So it's a happy of the day and a crappy of the day. And if you say a crappy, you got to give another happy, because we all want to end on the happy note. And so I was just talking. It's like I don't cry a lot, but it's like I couldn't even get words out to explain like what I was feeling. It's like I had flashbacks of myself at 7 and 8, and you were watching, the commercials that would come on with the guy in the tents with kids. And I remember getting out my journal, and I still have these journals, which is pretty crazy, at 8 years old, and just planning out this thing of how I was going to get a lemonade stand and sell lemonade, to somehow buy an airplane to take food to these children. And I would write about it years and years and years. And I just told my mom, I was like, this is something I have to do. And so it's like remembering that person and all the things that I felt at such a young age, like actually, it's like overwhelming. It was like super overwhelming. So that trip was done, and they had an option to go back. I think it was like 6 months later. And I was like, sign me up. I got to raise $2,000. I got to go. Like, there's no question. And my husband, Corey, was like, I don't know if you should go again. And I think he kind of saw, what was happening in me. And it's fun to go back and look at all the feelings that I was having during that, because of course I wrote them all down, but went back again. And then something happened, and the school decided that they were not going to go anymore. The nonprofit that was there, HC, in which we stayed, they thought there was some kind of corruption going on. And I was like, this is not going to work for me. I got to get back. I got to get back to these kids. I started learning the language. I didn't have any kind of map of I didn't know anybody with a nonprofit, but, I didn't know any of these things. So, and if you know Haiti or anything about Haiti, they have a ton of NGOs and organizations there. Mm-hmm. So I just thought in my mind that I would go with another organization.
Right.
I was like, I'm going to go with another organization and just help. It wasn't even in my mind to start something new. And so I went with this organization 2 times, and I was so conflicted because my personality is, if I get attached to something, it's like 100%, 110%. Nothing's going to stop me. I don't think about tomorrow. I'm just like in the moment. And that's every day with my life. It's how I can't stop watching Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. I have to just keep watching it until the whole show's done. I don't know if y'all like that, but shows, it's like I will watch it until it's just completely over. I can't do like on Tuesday nights, I'm going to watch 1 episode. I'm 100% with everything. So anyways, I went with this organization, and there's a lot of, I don't know if you've ever been to Haiti, but there's a lot of, you take rice and beans in like a Ziploc bag, the toothbrush and toothpaste, and you go into this community that you've never been before. You don't know these people. You knock on their door, and they're like looking at you like, what are you doing in my house? And you say, here's a bag of beans and rice. You don't know how many kids they have. You don't know how many people are there. You give 1 toothbrush to a family of like 6 people. And in my mind, I'm like, and then I go, let's pray with you. So I'm praying with these people and like holding their hands and praying these prayers. And I'm like, I don't know them. I don't know their names. This is not very personal. I brought food that's maybe going to be enough for them to each have 2 bites. And in my mind, I think people have been coming here for 50 years. They've been coming into this nation for 50 years. And what change is there really? Mm-hmm. What's the sustainability? What do partnerships look like? And so that's when my wheels started turning. And I'm like, well, I went to the person who was kind of like a friend to me that ran this organization. I'm like, look, are there things that we can do or change? And they were just not about it. And so I start thinking, what are these organizations really about? And I started reading books, this book called Travesty, about a guy who lived in Haiti for 30 years and worked with all these NGOs and was bringing out all this corruption of how much it takes to take a group of 10 people to Haiti.
Right.
And then you're paying, these kids are paying to come and paint schools. And it's so disrespectful to communities of people there that can work circles around most Americans, that can paint. I mean, you're bringing kids in to paint when there's these men that really want to support their families. And there's a lot of churches building orphanages, and you're like, all the people I've met want to keep their children. Yeah. They don't say, I don't want my kid. They literally think in their mind, because they're taught to think that there's no other way. Mm-hmm. That if I give my kid to this center and I might not ever see them again, that's the best thing for them. Yeah. And to me, I'm like, that's not the best thing. There's another way.
Yeah, it's not addressing the root problems. It's just like, oh, here's a Band-Aid.
Which is that kind of thinking in Haiti has made it really hard for someone who has thinking like me. Not saying that I have it all figured out, but it's like I'm willing to sit down with people and learn. And after I read that book, I thought, and I've talked to people and tried to, it's like when they start something, they don't want your ideas. They have something going. They're making a lot of money. The money's not going to the communities. Okay, when you have a community of people that are starving and putting their kids in an orphanage and you're painting their church, things just don't add up, Things don't add up. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I should just go to Haiti by myself and just meet people. And my friend that I had met, I never met her, but we talked on Facebook, and she's been to Haiti many times. And I was like, let's meet at Target in like the dollar section, and just so we can meet each other before we go to Haiti together. And she's like, sure. So she drove from Alabama, and we met in the dollar section. We're like, hey, and we just instantly like connected. And I was like, let's go to Haiti for 10 days. She's like, yeah, let's go. And meanwhile, Corey is like, what is happening?
Like, you can get all your trip essentials in the dollar spot.
Like, I need a little bit of crayons. I need some soap. Here we go. We're
that was an excellent meeting place choice.
Exactly. So we walked around Target with our Cokes and just talked about what we wanted to do, what we thought, and went to a hotel that I wrote a friend. I was like, hey, is there a hotel around Fonz, like where I'm used to staying? They're like, yeah, this is the hotel. And so I met, and it was like instant connection with Tina and Mr. Pierre, which are the owners of it. And so it's somewhere that I go every time I'm there now. They're like family. We stayed there, and we went and just saw Haiti. We went to different places just to experience the culture. I sat down with people in different communities, and I had to have a translator because I didn't know how to speak fluent Creole. And I was like, what would you like to see? What would benefit your community? What would be something that can help? And most of them are like, we need this for farming, or we need a school closer so our kid can go to school. And I'm like, nobody's interested in these things. People want to work in Haiti. They want to keep their children. It's just, I feel like a lot of the Americans that have come in and just years of, I think their intent might be good and their heart might be in the right place. And they're just going with someone who has one viewpoint. And so they don't get the other viewpoints of, and there are all those people that go and they just, this might sound harsh. You might have to say it. But it's like they just want the pat on the back. They do want the cliche photo on Insta, and I've learned that the hard way. I decided I was going to take a group. I was like, well, maybe we can take a group. And my mind was, all right, if we charge people $500 to come, which was a lot cheaper than and they buy their own plane ticket, or if they have a connection with the flight, then, we can pay the hotel that's helping this business, and we can help, let's just say one thing. We're going to help CAD, the place that I, we're going to bring them food. And man, I feel like I talk about this for a long time, but it's just the learning process of, it was a bad trip. There's a lot of political stuff. We were stopped in the roads multiple times. I had people like my mom and stepdad and Corey, who I wanted them just to have such a good experience like I have had. And it was just bad. It was like our car that went to get water was stuck out in traffic for 10 hours. Oh. And we were at CAD, like in the sun, because there's no shade with nothing. And you can drink their water. And they're all looking at me. And I'm like the leader of the thing. And I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I can't control these things. It's, and I've taken another group of a lot of people. And I just said, all right, I'm not the person to take people. If you're going to come here and you're going to complain about it being hot, or I'm so tired, we're in traffic all day, I just am not the person that has patience for that. I'm like, look where you are, it's the Caribbean, it's going to be hot, there's going to be suffering. All these people had been to a third world country before, so there was no really prep I felt like they needed at that time. I felt that way. And so it was super frustrating for me because I didn't have the patience to deal with those situations. Yeah. And so I was like, I got to rethink this whole thing. This is not working. Let me figure it out. People then were like, oh, we see what you're doing. We want to be a part. I need that tax write-off. And I'm like, I don't have a nonprofit. I guess I have to start one. And that's literally at the point where, because I knew it was going to take support to keep doing what I was doing. And for me, little background, I went to school for business. I like to make money. I like to work and make money. And here it is. It's like God brought me to this place where I wasn't working anymore. I was giving myself fully to this, my own money to this. And then I have to ask people for money, which was super uncomfortable for me to even have to say, hey, I'm going on a trip. Do you want to pay for me to go on this trip? Right. And it's like you meet the people, and it was like God was working those things out in me to bring me where I needed to be. And when you look back, I feel like anybody might feel this way. When you look back on your life and all the things that kind of led you to where you are, you're like, you want things to happen quicker, but really they happened when they needed to happen. Yeah. And it's like all the things from childhood and my parents' divorce and, my mom as a, single mom, seeing her work so hard, it led me to where I am today, working with the boys that I'm working with now. And so I started, I asked a friend who I heard was trying to start a nonprofit. And I was like, dude, I don't know anything. I don't know. There's a lot of paperwork. I'm not good at those things. What do I need to do? And he's like, well, there's this organization called the Foundation Group. And they will literally, you pay them a hefty little price, but they do make sure everything's the way it needs to be. So I started that process, and then I got incorporated, and then it's like people could start getting a tax write-off. And a lot of the people that support me, that it's really all of us working together, they had known the kids at CAD, and they had been there, and it's like one of those places where you go and everybody they love the kids at CAD, they love them. And I had actually taken a couple of people and stayed at CAD at the orphanage instead of staying at hotels, just to be around them more, to see what their daily life was like. So we were staying in the same kind of places they were staying. Every morning at 4:30, they would wake up and start doing their chores. There'd be goats and cows mooing and pooping right outside your window. And it's like, the baths, or you get your bucket and you take your bath, and just seeing how they really live their day by day. And in doing that, you kind of also learn the corruption within the place that is like completely devastating, because these kids are kind of being used to make a profit. And if it wasn't Americans, it was Haitian people that were running this place. And I'm like, if you know me, you don't go cross me. And when I found out we had brought a new pack of underwear or something for all the kids, they did not want me to give the underwear to the children. And I'm like, So I asked a friend, got a key, somehow went up to their storage thing, and it was this huge room packed to the ceiling of brand new clothes, pianos, violins, guitars, shoes, food. And I just was completely broken. Here these kids are just in tattered clothes, eating like a small amount of rice. And I was like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah.
And so they were really mad that I had gotten the key. And I immediately marched
in the middle of a movie.
And immediately marched down that hill. And I questioned her, because at this point, this lady had come to my house here in the States and stayed with me while she went and had cancer treatments. And I walked right in her office. I said, you're going to tell me right now, what is this stuff doing up there? And it was like her face was like, who? Like she was looking to see who gave me this key. And I was like, no. I'm giving this stuff to the children now. It's like it's like something came over me. It's like, the injustice of it all. It's like these kids are suffering. They have these little Crocs and there's holes all in them. They're too small. Their feet are like, they play in the rocks. They play soccer in the rocks. And the kids didn't even understand that what they were dealing with was bad. They didn't even understand that having holes in their shoes was something, but in me, it's like, no, I see it this way. This is the way it needed to be. And it caused a lot of problems within that, because they didn't want people to question them.
Did you ever figure out why they had that room full of toys, why they weren't giving it to the children?
What they told me, which obviously wasn't the truth, was that they have to wait for every couple of weeks, and then they analyze the kid's situation to see what they need, if it's toothpaste or toothbrush, because they're like, if we give the kids a new pair of shoes or let them play with the toys, then they'll break them or something will happen, is what they told me, which obviously wasn't the truth.
Oh, man.
The state of their situation was not well kept. So, obviously their analyses were not going very well, or were not happening, or whatever. But, I get the scarcity mentality of that, of save all this stuff until we absolutely need it. Maybe, possibly. But it also seems
it was sketchy, because they were taking more than half of it and selling it in the markets to make money for their own pockets. Yeah. And all of, they were taken care of. They had nice cars. They had a nice house. And she had no problem of asking you over for coffee. And, a normal home, I was like, this is too much, because I know that where this money is coming from, the kids are lacking, so you can have a better life. So you're using these children to make a profit for yourself. And you would think, I guess you expect it out of a lot of American groups that go there, which you shouldn't. But you're Haitian. You grew up here. You know what it's like to do without. And you're doing this, to your own people. It was really a sad situation.
And you said, the kids don't know any different,
Which is more sad.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't want them to know what they're missing. And that's not better.
I have so many stories of the kids. I would sit with them and be like, tell me about this. And because they grew to trust me after all the years. And at this point I was going every 2 months and staying for a week at the time. And I remember one of my little boys, Robinson, he had a bunch of random scars on his body. And so I was like, I shouldn't have asked him, but I did. Where'd this hole come from in your leg? He's like, oh, and he was one of the ones that was lost at 4 years old and just never knew what his mother's name was. So we can't even look for them now because he's 4. He said, I just called her mom. My dad wasn't ever around. I don't remember where I'm from. So he had the hole in his thigh, and he's like, I was walking at night trying, to get to the bathroom, because you use the bathroom up in the past the bushes, far away from where they sleep. And he fell on a bike and it punctured his thigh. And there's no nurses. And if there was, they're not like they're going to care. I was like, what'd you do? He said, I put dirt in it. He just packed it full of dirt. And I'm like, what in the world? Another one on a scar where he's like, I cut myself on a piece of metal. And I'm thinking, Dennis, like, you know, and he's like, I just wrapped a shirt around. And it's like, they don't even know what it's like to have someone care, you know, for them or care about those things. They just think, oh, I'd take care of myself. Like, packing dirt in your thigh, like, it's...
And I think that's where it comes in when American groups or affluential groups go to places like that. It's going to teach the Americans more than it's going to teach or probably help the local people. So I don't think trips like that are bad, but I do think it's good to recognize that when you're going into a situation like that, you have to honor and respect the way these people live and not just necessarily think, okay, I'm going to fix this by throwing some money at it or by painting a building. There's a lot that we don't know and understand about their lives, you know?
It's like a respect that you have to, first of all, you have to earn, but you also have to learn like how to respect them, which is, you know, it's like this long process of me learning that, like doing things the wrong way so many times and still going back and saying, how could I have done this better? Like what would be more beneficial to you? Like, how can we really help these kids? And finding somebody that you can connect with that is Haitian, that can kind of lead you in that way. And so I thank God every day for Alex. I was on a trip with another organization. He was a translator. And as soon as I met him, I was like, we were joking back and forth. I was like, he understands my sarcasm, which is a big thing. Like, hey,
that's
usually
huge in other countries.
They're just like, they think of me as rude. And I'm like, no, this is just my personality. You know, and we just instantly connected. So when I first started going back, he was the one that was one of the first names on my nonprofit's papers was somebody, you know, in Haiti that was a part of what we were doing.
Wow.
Okay, so let's back up just a little. So you're how old when you first went to Haiti? 26?
26. 27?
Yeah, something like that.
Newly married.
That's what I was going to ask. You mentioned you had a background in business and you'd always wanted to run a nonprofit, but didn't know necessarily those steps.
I just had no idea what any of it was. I didn't know anything. Basically, I knew nothing going into what I was doing, but I was open just for whatever kind of knowledge because I was so passionate about it. So I asked a friend and he kind of led me to that group that you literally just make a call and they just share their heart. It's an amazing organization and you just share their heart. They have all of the things that you need to get your start.
That's really interesting because I remember when I was doing a lot of like overseas photojournalism, it's been a long, long time since I've done trips like that. But I remember thinking to myself, how do people even start? And so I think that's fascinating that you found a group that will walk you through that and help you. I also wanted to go back to you saying that it was uncomfortable for you to ask for money. I think that's probably something a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah.
Was there ever a moment where you thought about letting that keep you from trying, or you just knew you had to do it?
I knew I had to do it. And to me, I think what got me like to keep doing it was the thought of this is not for me. Like the whole thing of what I'm doing is not, there's a bigger picture that's beyond what I'm doing. And I felt like if I didn't step out and do that, what would happen? Like to my boys that I have now in our home, like what would have been their futures when they were kicked out into the street, which is what happened because they got old enough. Like what would have happened to them? Because no one else had a relationship I felt like I did with them. So I feel like if I didn't go through that very uncomfortable whole stage, then I wouldn't be where I'm at.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, I think it helps a lot that you have such an awareness. I know you earned this awareness over all your experience there, but it helps a lot that it is beyond you. And it's not just like, I'm going there, you know, you're not just going there for like a feel good experience or to sort of take the quintessential mission trip photo or whatever. Like you really did have a vision for something that was completely about meeting other people's needs. I think that helps you as someone who's asking, but it helps the people who want to give, you know, it's like, okay, this is like a real thing. I remember the first time I went to Africa, I was a teenager, and somebody wrote a letter to the editor in our paper in our small town that was basically like, for the cost of going on this trip, you could feed this number of people in that country. What's the point of sending these girls, you know? We sort of had to wrestle with that at the age of 15, 16. Yeah. Why does it matter? You know, why not just send our money over there? I think everybody who does that kind of work, like, you really have to ask yourself those questions and know why it matters and make sure that it does, you know?
I completely agree. I see that a lot. I mean, there's planes that are just packed with groups, and I'm always the one blabbing on the plane to whoever's sitting beside me. I'm just like, what are you doing? How long have you come here? Where's your family? You know, and I meet some of the best people. I think there's such a fine line when it comes to, because I've added it up multiple times. I'm like, if I brought 10 people and they paid $800 for the trip, that's not including your plane ticket. Yeah. You think, okay, that's $8,000. All right, then you have to pay for where they're staying. How much is that? Then you have to pay for your transportation, which is usually $150 a day. Then you have to have translators, and you add up all this money, and you're like, here's $25,000.
Yeah.
You think of a person, a normal Haitian, living off $1.50 a day. It kind of like makes your mind go, okay, you better be coming here with your group to do some things that only you can do.
Absolutely.
And education is like the number one thing that I would bring people for, is to teach things, not to paint, not to build. We have, you know, it's taken a lot of time to build relationships with people in the communities where I know, hey, I can go over here and ask Juan to come and do this. I know where I can go to get all of these different things. And it was a long time to get to that point.
It's a great point.
Yeah. It is. It takes time to build quality connections that can yield more sustainable fruit. There's this broad umbrella of going to some place to meet people's basic human needs has always been really appealing to me. That kind of work gets me fired up. It matters so much, and I'm all about it. But I think the epitome of that is the attitude that you have about it and the approach that you're taking.
And it didn't come overnight.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's like something that I've learned, like, a lot of mistakes. You know, you make a lot of mistakes, and then you kind of like have to retrack yourself. And I think that's why it's so important. Like, I was so blessed, like, growing up with like a mom that always let me kind of like just become who I was. She never pushed me in one direction or the next. She always encouraged those things. If I wanted to cut all of my hair off in 8th grade, like Holly Berry, she let me do it. Knowing the consequences were going to be, I was going to be called Elvis for months. Okay, for months. But she just like, if that's what you want to do, you know, within boundaries. And so all of those things have like shaped me to where I really didn't worry about if I was just going to fail. I wasn't scared to take these chances and go to this country not knowing anybody because I was scared of what might could happen. I was always like, no, I want to do this, whatever it takes, I'm going to do it. And that's just the kind of approach that I had with it.
Well, and you started from such an eyes wide open, here's a bunch of what not to do. There's got to be a way to do it well. Exactly. You know, like...
Yeah, it's good motivation.
Yeah, totally.
So walk us through, you've mentioned meeting a few certain boys, and you've mentioned a boys' home. So what is the organization doing currently?
Oh, this makes me happy to talk about. Yeah. So all of the boys that are in our boys' home now, the RI boys' home, I've known since my first trip to Haiti. They were all at CAD, and so I've watched them grow up from little bitty babies to now. Our oldest is 19. We have 10 of the boys. They got to a certain age, and there's a lot of stuff that went on to basically get them kicked out of where they were. I feel like when they get to a certain age and they can kind of take care of themselves, the people that are around you in certain places are like, all right, it's time for you to go. And they came to me with a letter. They had all written this letter and thanking me. They knew they were going to be getting kicked out. They didn't know where they were going to be going. They just were told they were going to be dropped off in Port-au-Prince. So they wrote me this whole letter, packed me in this SUV. All 10 of us, including Alex, were in there. And they read this letter to me all in tears. And I'm like, well, what does it say? What's in this letter that's just so like upsetting to them? And so Alex was like in tears. And I'm like, can you tell me what this says? Like, I was in tears and I didn't even know because I could just feel the feelings. And they were just thanking me for taking time and using my money to come spend all these years with them. They didn't know if they were ever going to see me again, but they wanted to show their appreciation. And I'm like, I was just choking, like, on my tears. And I was like, no. That's not going to happen. And that was the moment where I was like, I've got to do something. I've got to start whatever I need to start. And that's when I started reaching out about starting a nonprofit, because I knew I was going to need help to somehow the people that were already surrounding and helping. And, I knew that they would want to be a part of this. So it was within 2 months of that letter that Robinson was woken up at 6:00 in the morning. They told him he was going to the doctor because he got a bad case of worms. And I was sending money to a friend to come get him and take him to the doctor because no one there would. And worms are a common thing, but I'm like, no, I don't care if it's a common thing. Like, this is something that we've got to fix. Like, I got them free hospital visits and medicine 5 miles down the street.
Wow.
And no one was even taking them. Like, we don't have no money for a tap-tap. I was like, I will send you $2 for a tap-tap. I will send it to you, and they still wouldn't. So I was having somebody come in, and when they found out, they got really mad. They woke them up at 6:00 and took them to their IBSR, which is like their social services, I guess you could call it. And they put them in a place which had no water. People were just running in and out, using the bathroom on everything. It was basically fixing to go under, and nobody was watching these kids. A lot of gang activity. Ooh. And I was like, pressure. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, I don't know if I'm going to get papers in time. I don't know if anybody's going to support this. But I just told Alex, I said, go find a house. Just go look in a good location where there's a good school and find a house. And he did. And it was $8,000 a year to rent.
Wow.
And I'm like, $8,000. First of all, I'm not working anymore. I'm not making any money. And I'm putting all my time into, finding this. And I was so worried about, like, Corey, what's he going to think? Like, what's he going to do? Like, I was like I could feel the weight of and responsibility of, I'm going to have a house. I'm going to have staff. I'm going to have to, you knew all the things already. Yeah. I knew how much food was. I knew the cost of what it was going to be. But I thought, well, here we go. We're just going to have to do it. and so we did. We found a house. We signed a lease. And I did like a little fundraiser. And hallelujah, we raised the $8,000 for the year. And he was my first boy. Like, wow. He ran away from the crazy place because it was shut down and came right into our spot. And that's how we started. And now we have 10 of them that have come in. And I think one of the most rewarding things about it is no one ever took the time to look for family members. And so some of these kids, Wilderson, for example, my sweetie, he didn't even know his parents died when he was 7 from random illnesses. He didn't even know where his brothers were. I have a boy named McKindy, didn't even know if his parents were alive, had no idea where they were. It took us a couple of days to find some family members for these kids.
Wow.
And we knew nothing. Like, we knew nothing. And so now Wilderson has an older brother that comes and visits him.
Wow.
Twice a month. He's made this like family connection. And, it's so interesting to see how much they have flourished. It's like they found a whole team of people that have, it's not just about me or Alex or Tracy or, who's also on our board, but it's a cumulative effort of these people that I guess have just seen when you're passionate about something and you've been on my friend on Facebook, I just talk about it all the time because it's like I can't help myself. I'm so excited about what's happening and how it's changing these boys' lives. And I think people can be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to send money, but you don't understand like what that does.
Yeah.
Like how it has changed their life from where they've been to where they are now. Like having a connection to a family member and being able to see your mother that you haven't seen in 6 years because no one took the time to even look. And the kids will tell you, oh, my family is from here. You can go and drive. And it's like, ask somebody in the neighborhood, the village. You're like, hey, have you seen da-da-da? They're like, oh, yeah, over there. And you find them. And I'm like, no one has ever even taken the time.
Right.
They just don't care. And so most of our boys now have a cousin or an aunt or somebody that they feel connected to, and the amount of change in their personalities, it's astronomical. It's amazing.
It's like priceless too. Mm-hmm. That's not just providing a meal, which is great.
Yeah.
But it's like this whole other level of basic human needs, It's like belonging and love and a sense of identity.
When Robinson first got there, a couple of them, they sat down with me and they're like, we have some questions we need to ask you. What happens if someone sells this house? What happens if we can't have the money for the rent? What happens if there's all these worries? And I'm like, 14 years old. Like, it just broke my heart for them to even have to worry about where will I go? What will I do? And I was like, as long as I'm breathing, I was like, you do not have to worry. I don't care where we go. We're all going to be like a family together. And that's, if you ask them, that's what they say. They're like, we're family. We take care of each other. And It's been just so many things. I could list so many things. We found a Haitian man named Max, who I had met at CAD, who went to school to be a psychologist there. He came in and did therapy for 6 months with my boys, and it was $60 for that many months of just therapy, talking to them. Like, one of my boys was like, I can't control my anger. Sometimes I'm mad. I just want to fight. I was like, well, we're going to have to get down to the root of this issue. Of like what's really causing it. And I was like, we need a therapist. Like, I got to find somebody here that can come in and talk to these kids and go into the grocery store, like not knowing how to buy something. I'm like, okay, they're getting older. I've got to teach them these basic things of, I remember taking my boys to the store, and I was like, all right, you want a treat? Gas station. And Robinson looks at an apple, and he's like, I want an apple. There's ice cream, there's all these things. And he's like, have you ever had an apple before? He's like, no, never had an apple. And I'm like, I almost burst into tears. I was like, oh my God. So at the same time, it's making all these differences in their life. I get like this huge check in my life of, just being grateful and present and, for the simple things. I'm like, an apple? Like, I could cry about that for 6 days. Yeah. Just the fact that he just wanted an apple. Like, I'm like, what in the world? I can't let my mind think past what's going on with the RI, because you get so bombarded with people not doing or caring about these things or getting money off of these children. It's like I can't go past. And so it's like hard for me, because I am like one of those nurturing people that just want to help. And when you see so much need, and it's overwhelming. I think that's the hardest thing for me, is I have to keep trying to find some balance and like focus on, okay, I have 10 boys. I have this house. We've got to make this do. Like, we have a house mom who's also Alex's mother. And then we have a security guy. And so we have 3 employees, and we have these 10 kids. And my job, I don't feel like it right now is any bigger than that. I don't want to go out and do all these different things. I'm just trying to focus on raising these boys to be good Christian guys, like who love the Lord, that can provide for themselves. And in the same time, teaching them what it is to dream, like to have possibilities, like, options of a future, which is, I think that's the hardest and the saddest thing, is that they don't even know what it is to dream. Mm-hmm. They don't know it's going to make me cry. They don't know what it's like to teaching them to dream. The hardest.
It sounds like there's almost a constant threat of being overwhelmed. Like you really have to work hard to redirect yourself so that you don't go there. How do you do that? How do you sort of face that daily challenge of not getting overwhelmed when it would be so easy to?
That, I think it's something that you are always learning. I don't think it's just something that I face one day and then or next day. It's like all the time, because there's constant things that come up. There's, it's like you have enough people that are supporting what you're doing, and that's just what you're doing, not counting the recent stuff that's going on that's driven up food prices like 60%, so it's like normally when you would spend this amount of money, now they're like, well, that's only half of what it was before. And I just can't let myself go there. I think it's just always like, I don't have any expectations. I can't put expectations on what I think I'm just going to trust that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and that everything else is going to kind of fall into place. Mm-hmm. And that's when it's so great to have people on your team that can take the slack. Like Tracy is so good at, she went on my first trip with me, and I don't know why in my mind I never even thought about, I guess because I didn't think she was interested, and then she went on another trip with me, and I'm like, I need her like on my team, like to be a constant on my team. And she does all the social media, which I'm terrible at. She was a teacher, a pre-K teacher, so she comes up with all these like lessons that we can do when we do VBS in the community that we're partnered with. If I just like call her or send a Marco Polo and I'm like, I am super stressed out, she will come back with something that kind of calms me down. It's like we have Laura and Alex and Tracy, and we're a team that brings something different to the table. So I think it's so important to surround yourself with people that can encourage you in the things that you need to be encouraged in, and also lovingly say, hey, you just need to chill out for just a second. Just chill out, drink your coffee, and like calm down.
Yeah.
It's so amazing to hear you talk about it. And I've been able to witness how much you have done and how far you have come with the organization and in the boys' lives. And I'm just thinking, how scary it must have been to take a lot of these steps. Even just traveling to third world countries. I know that's not something that a lot of people will even do or think they can do. You know, a single woman, 26 years old. What would you say to those people who maybe have listened to the news and are just letting themselves feel that fear and that it might be too dangerous to even go to a place like that?
I have a lot to say about it. I just was never afraid to go there. Like, I was never scared of the people. You have to trust the people that are there to say, I mean, obviously there's places that you don't go.
Yeah.
You don't go walk. I mean, the obvious things, you don't go walking at night. But when you're so passionate about something, you also have to bring it down and be realistic about what's going on and where you are. And I was never afraid to get hurt. I was never afraid of those things. And I just kind of went with an open mind of, you know, all I know of this country is what media or someone says. And I just had to take that with a grain of salt. I would trust a lot of people there. And I feel safer there sometimes than I do in some places in the States. You know, there's been a lot of the negative, I feel like, about Haiti in the news recently. And I think that it's smart to kind of like really truly understand and be willing to understand what's happening, what's really going on. Mm-hmm. It's not just some people that get crazy in the streets and yelling and burning up stuff. There's a reason, and it's what I call organized chaos. There's an organization about it, and there's a reason why they do the things they do. And you just have to be smart about, all right, obviously during this time, I haven't been able to go in the last 6 months because of it. There's targets, like Americans sometimes can be targets because they're like, we can't afford gas or food. We know you probably have $20, so we're just, you know, and it's just, yeah. I don't think bad or ill of those people. I just know that it's like survival. So I've never been scared. I think that if you're passionate and your desire is big enough to go somewhere, just be smart about. I mean, I've literally taken Cece, my daughter, who's 2. I went 4 or 5 times while I was pregnant, and she's been to Haiti 12 times.
Wow.
And she's not even
amazing.
2. She's not even 2. So if I feel safe enough to take my kid, you know, and be around the people that I know and places that I'm safe, I feel like you just have to be, you know, smart about it.
Yeah, and that's something I was going to ask you about because, correct me if I'm wrong, you went when you were pregnant and there was a virus?
I actually had Zika when I was pregnant, and it was right when I found out I was pregnant when the Zika was showing itself. And I feel like this is a tricky little thing because some people, I don't talk about things with a lot of people because I know people are going to be like, you're crazy, what are you doing? Like, I'm like, come on, like, people are kind of blowing this out of proportion. It literally was not a terrible thing. Like, the baby was fine. There was nothing wrong with my baby. People got some stories twisted in the media where this thing with, you know, having babies was mixed with Monsanto in Brazil. And so the story just kind of got mixed up.
Yeah.
But I had found out I was pregnant while I had Zika. So I didn't even know
oh my goodness.
I was pregnant before I got it. So I was in Haiti, got the Zika. I was there for 18 days, digging a 10-foot trash hole I had.
Of course you were.
Like 4 o'clock in the morning, shoveling. Tarantulas are coming out of the pile everywhere. Yeah, tarantulas. Huge tarantulas.
Girl.
I mean, I was sleeping in a bed and I was got roaches crawling over me all night. And it's like not a big deal anymore. You're just like, get off me. Like, leave me alone. Like, you hear mice trying to get in your suitcases. You're like, calm down. Like, I'm just trying to sleep for a second. The roosters, cow, everything's going on, you know? And I come back and it's like, it's immediately on the plane, I felt like I was sick. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I probably got some fluky thing. I don't know. And I'm not the one, this probably is a bad thing. I don't ever think about the diseases. I don't think about all that stuff because I've seen a lot of my kids go through some of those things. And I'm like, oh, it's not a big deal. Everyone's here's fine. It's not a big deal.
Fine.
They're fine. Yeah.
It's treatable. People.
Yeah.
We have medicine.
Yes, exactly. We got home. It was like a rash on my body. And I was like, oh, crap. I got the Zika. And it was just like 3 days and I was done. I was like, well, I guess I can never get that again. That's done. What's next?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What an adventure.
Yeah. You can say that.
I was like, mice, cool. Trash hole, cool. Zika virus, cool. Tarantulas, no.
My first time.
Anna's like marking that off her to-do list.
I just moved that to the top of my scary things.
Tarantulas.
Like,
I don't like spiders, and when I had brought these fake spiders to like scare Alex one night. He's terrified of like spiders and snakes. And so we're always trying to like dangle weird things to make it seem like a snake while he's sleeping. So he like freaks out. And so one of my boys saw the spiders. And he knew we were taking trash, and it was like 8 o'clock at night. So it was like pitch dark. There's no lights, no electricity, no lights.
Right.
And we're just walking with my friend Kat. We're going to put our trash back, and we come back, and Robin says like, a tarantula. And it was the fake spider that he got us with. We brought it to get them, and they got us. We took off running as fast as we could. And he's just laying in the gravel laughing at us. I was like, oh man.
Got you.
Got you. Yeah.
Got you good.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
What an incredible story. Going back to having your daughter 2 years ago, how has your role changed, if at all, since having your daughter?
It hasn't. It hasn't changed at all because I told myself I wasn't going to allow that. I knew I already had an issue with balancing things because, like I said before, I'm 100% when it comes to things. And so it's like, I'm married, can't neglect that because I'm 110% into this thing. But then add another kid,
Another kid.
Well,
Corey, you're number one.
That came out, but that's true. It's true.
I love it.
And I also have, a house now that's coming into play. This was all while I was pregnant, getting the house, starting the organization. I just said, I'm not going to be one of those parents that stop living and doing things I'm passionate about because I have a kid. Mm-hmm. You just have to look at it differently and you say, how am I going to involve my kid in what I'm doing? Mm-hmm. And so I started taking her, and I still do what I need to do. Like, she doesn't come often with me now just because she's gotten older, and sometimes I've got to do a lot of community work where I'm like, she's 2. She's running around. Like, I'm in the sugarcane fields.
Yeah.
Like, I can't. She's not wonder, like, where are you? Like, peeking through everything. Hey, get away from the bull or the donkey or,
Time to dig a trash hole.
Exactly.
Yeah, soon she'll be able to help you dig.
Oh, and when she's coming. Like, hey, I don't need a group. Come on, Susie. So, I would say.
That's incredible.
You were saying you haven't been able to go for the last 6 months, but how frequently do you usually go?
I'm there every 2 months.
Okay.
For like a week.
Yeah.
A little over a week usually.
Awesome.
So it's like I'm real antsy. I'm like waiting to go, and there's just talks of a lot of more stuff going on, and so I'm like, I just gotta wait. I'm like, can y'all just hurry and figure it out? Like, do what you gotta do, whatever it is, so I can just get back because I miss them and I get to talk to them, and they're in school and all that sort of stuff. But they're like, we miss you. I was like, I know.
Yeah, so it's not really like clear on the horizon yet.
No. Right now, the government, they just want the president to, anytime there's a problem in Haiti, they blame the president. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. And there's a lot of, just like in any government, crazy stuff that goes on. And so it's all about power and money. Yeah. In Haiti, there's extremely wealthy. Like, extremely wealthy. And then there's the poor people, and there's no middle ground, and they're always fighting to keep the money to themselves.
Has there ever been a time through any of this that you just thought, I got in way over my head, I don't think I can do this? Mm-hmm. Did you ever think about quitting?
Quitting was not in my mind, but being completely overwhelmed to the point of tears, to where I'm like, what am I doing? That has happened multiple times. I think that's with anybody that's growing something from, you're always like second guessing yourself. You're always wondering, am I doing what's right? And so I have to constantly like look back at, I was here, and now I'm here. And it's a constant reminder. And the boys growing and being in a good school and learning trades and getting things like their license and learning to drive are all things that are like, okay, we're making changes. They all can speak English now. There's little things along the way that you're like, okay. And I think when you're in a place where there's so much room for growth, like even the small things, it's important not to take those for granted. Like even the small things is like a huge encouragement to keep going for months for me. It's like, hey, my boys just all passed their report cards for the 6 months they've been in school. We're doing something. We're doing something right. To not, most of them weren't even in a real school. They were just being taught in the same as 5 and 6 years old. They were all in the same room. And now they're in a very difficult school where they have 18 classes a day, 18 different teachers. They can speak 4 languages. And I'm like, it's doing something.
Yeah.
People around me, like, you know, help this to happen. And it's a constant reminder of, you know, even through the hard times, to just keep on.
I think that's great advice for anybody who doesn't know if they should keep going or, you know, if what they're doing is making a difference. I think focusing on the positive, focusing on what you have done and what you can see, you know, has been affected for good. I think that's really good advice.
Corey gets so mad at me sometimes because I'm that personality where it is to have full glass. The glass is full to me, like, all the time. It's like, even when we've been in like huge financial stress, I'm like, well, it could be like this.
Right.
And he's just not that person. He's like, no, I don't want to compare. I was like, it's important sometimes to like bring us back to our basic needs are met right now. Like, there's no, like, we're going to be fine. And so that outlook, and I think that's growing up and, you know, coming from a divorced family where my mom, you know, seeing all of that, I was the middle kid. I was the one that she always depended on. I got a job when I was 17 to help pay bills. Like, all of those things, like, helped me shape, you know, the way I view things to what I am now. So I always look back, not just on where I came with the organization, but also in my own personal life of growth and going through all these different things in life. I'm like, wow, it's crazy, because you don't think when you're going through it that this is going to be worth anything. Mm. And then after you're through all of the hard stuff, it's like you don't think about the end. You just think about when you're in it. And then after you're done, you're like, oh, wow. And so now, seeing all of that, I'm able to use that with my boys now, like them going through their struggles now. I'm like, look, I'm not much different than you guys. Okay, we came from different countries, but I kind of went through a lot of the same things that they did. And so you're like, God, you were up to something way back then, and you just don't think about.
Yeah.
You don't think about it.
All those moments that when you felt like you were in over your head were not the end. Now you know that because you got past them. And I think the answer is obvious, but I just want to ask you for the record, was it worth it to keep going?
Oh, yeah.
Of course it was.
Of course it was. Yeah.
Of course it was.
Of course it was.
Yeah. And that doesn't take anything at all away from probably how overwhelmed and desperate you did feel in the moment.
And I feel that way about even when things don't go the way you necessarily want them to. I feel like that could be with anybody in life. Like, if it's something that you're passionate about, you don't really know how it's going to end up. You don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's worth it for yourself to push through, even if it fails, even if it's not going to be something huge or something big. Like, it's worth it to keep going, even through the circumstances. And on the end, you're like, all right, this didn't work out, but how much you've grown personally. You don't know the lives that you could affect. You don't know how that can motivate someone else to keep going through, you know, whatever they're going through. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it.
I think we lose that a lot in this society of Instagram and influencers and all of that. You know, I feel like it's almost discredited if you're not getting a bunch of attention and notoriety. And so I think that's a great reminder to everybody. It doesn't have to look shiny and impressive if you're doing work that is really important to yourself even. Obviously, with what you're doing, I mean, it's had an effect on so many people, and I just think it's amazing.
What does your organization need? Like, how can people help and get involved?
Usually it's just something as simple as sharing our Facebook page. That's where we're having our website rebuilt right now, so I always send people to our Facebook page. At this time of the year, we're always raising money for our rent. And with the economy and how things are going in Haiti, it's just super difficult. Usually, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's easier. And now that there's so much negativity being shining on Haiti right now, it's making it difficult.
Are you saying people are more hesitant to give because of what they're hearing is happening in Haiti?
And I have a lot of people writing me and asking me, are you still going to be doing work in Haiti? And I'm like, yes. What question is this?
Of course.
What in the world? Now I'm just going to be like, see ya. Like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, I'm just going to ignore this. Yeah, I'm like, yes, we are, you know, and we're fortunate. We have a couple of churches. And like I said, everybody that gives and supports has been with me since the beginning. And I'm constantly, you know, it's like, I feel like I can never say thank you enough. Like, even when somebody donates $20, I'm like, you don't know what $20 does.
Yeah.
Like, it goes a long way. This is literally someone's, you know, $20 it's 20 days of work. It's 20 days of living. Like, it pays, you know, it's just a lot of money in a different country. So when somebody gives 20, when somebody gives 100, I'm just constantly, I feel like, and that's what I have to remind myself. I'm like, you can just say thank you and just trust that people are going to know that. I feel like I just have to come out with a paragraph and be like, you don't understand how much this means to me. Like, I'm just super thankful anytime anybody likes our Facebook page or shares our Facebook page or it gives. It took a lot to not just ask for money, but to be able to receive money. When someone would give me something, to begin with, I was super awkward. I was like, sweating. I'm like, thanks. Like, they give you a check and they're like, here, thank you. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do. Like, thank you. Like, my face would be all sweaty and red. And anyways.
That is a hard thing. For people who maybe have never been in that position of having to ask for money or raise money, I think that's worth noting that it is really hard to ask. But having also been on the other side, I also know that a lot of people want to help and they just don't know how or who to give to because like you were saying earlier, you don't know who you can trust. So I've always loved the way that you spell it out, and I imagine a lot of this is on your Facebook page and we'll link to that. But Evanda's always explaining, okay, we need this much for the house rent and we need this much for a birthday party for the boys. And I'm like, yes, please feed them cake, so it's just really fun to know what you're giving to.
Yeah. I just, coming from the other end of giving and having the money, you don't know where it's going. That could even be with churches. You just don't know what it's going for. I just want people. I want to be open as possible with this is where the money goes. Yeah. We don't make any money doing this. We don't do it for the money. We do it because we're just, our boys, what they need and making sure families are taken care of and,
I just love that so much. You make it so much easier than 90% of organizations that ask for money. Honestly, you make it easier to give in good conscience and with a joyful heart. You're doing something sustainable and you're being transparent about it. Oh, how mind-blowing. You know what I mean? But that's really hard to come by.
It's a needed thing. You know what I mean? Like you want to know, like the people that might not be able to go, but they can give and they want to give. I feel like you owe it to them. Like, hey, it might be you just gave $5, but you're making a difference and you deserve to know where that difference is going. And I always tell people, I was like, you know what? I don't take groups to Haiti. I don't take groups anymore. I was like, but if you just want to come with me on a trip and you want to come see my boys and you come hang out and like see them and meet them, I can show you exactly where it's, where it's going. And we can go eat some good Haitian food and, go see some sights and be able to actually enjoy.
Once you've seen something like that, you can't ignore it. So
I'm trying to think of anything I didn't talk about. I have 5 acres of land. I don't know if I even mentioned
Congratulations.
Partnered with UGA and they designed a school for me.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, they sent their 2 students down there to do like soil and the topography of the land.
That's
a whole layout of like how
incredible.
much it will cost and everything to build a school in our community of Mirror Ballet.
And so that's something you're working towards. You haven't broken ground.
No, that'd be something in the future when I don't feel like I can go to something bigger unless I'm comfortable with the small.
Yeah, sure.
I want to make sure that everything they're taken care of in school and their house and all that. And then you move on to, the next thing.
Well, like you said, you're teaching them to dream. Like that's the dream for you guys.
Yeah, they do. And on a side note, it's really interesting to see. This is something weird. It's not weird. It's cool what I've done. Okay, every 6 months I would sit down with them, even when I couldn't have a formal conversation with them, ask them about their dreams, and I have it all on paper. And 7 years ago, and to see them say, the things that they would say would, I want to have tap tap. Things that they would just see and know that they could do. They were in enclosed. They never got out. They were just in this enclosed thing. And now we still do that. So 7 years later, we sit down with them and we have a guy that we already do skill, building with them. So one wants to be a pilot. We have a guy that wants to be a psychologist. We have a dentist. Like all these different things they just never thought were.
I love it.
They were capable of because of where they were at. Yeah. So I was like, it doesn't matter about your circumstances and where you're at. Like, you can still dream, beyond that.
That's so cool. And they may not have even known what some of those things were, I
had to explain to them what a dream... They literally thought the dream meant when you go to sleep and you have a dream. Yeah. They didn't even know what it meant to, aspire to have something or a passion or... so I'm always, my mom has come a couple of times and done, baking classes with them, and that was fun. That is just something, I have a little boy who has a palsy and they won't take him at any school because he's 13 and never been to a school. He didn't even know how to write, so we have to go back to the basics and teach him ABCs and write. And out of all the kids, when we did our meeting the last time I was there in October, we were like, all right, let's just sit down and share, like, what are some of our dreams and how we can work together and encourage each other in this home. Y'all are a family. We need to encourage those. And they're all like, they're 17, 18 years old. So they got those, I just want to be that kind of attitude going on right now. And the little boy, we get around to Jameson and he's like, I want to be a baker. And he's like, has a lot of issues where it almost would be impossible for him to do that. But it's like he doesn't even think about those impossibilities. He's just like, I want to be a baker. I want to have my own restaurant. This is what I want to make. And it's like at 13, never been in a school, never even been like around people. He has these huge dreams. And me and Tracy are just like, oh my gosh. So this summer we have internships lined up with them. And so he's going to go work at this pizza place and learn how to like work with dough and things like that. And we have a couple of others that's going to go work with this a tile and steel guy to learn how to make, art stuff. So
oh
exciting.
My goodness.
Yeah.
That's incredible. It's incredible. And that's something that not even all Americans know how to do, is dream. I feel like I hear people tell me all the time how limited their resources are and how they can't do whatever. They can't pursue their passion because of this reason, this reason, and this reason. I love this message because you're really teaching these boys who have nothing that they can do whatever they want. And I think, what would it take to apply that to our own lives where we are really, really starting from such a different place, and I think what saddens me the most is that we're, quote unquote, we could debate this, one of the richest nations in the world, and yet we're all living like we're poor. Mm-hmm. And we're all living like we don't have resources or ways to, pursue these things. So I love that you're teaching the boys that. I absolutely believe that for them. And I also believe it for all of us.
Yeah. A lot of times it's what you just said. People look around at their current state or their current circumstances. Of course, they're not dreaming beyond that because that's where they're starting from. They're looking around and going, what's reasonable to dream? Which is kind of an oxymoronic question, like it doesn't have to be reasonable. You don't have to impose those limits on it.
I agree. I think there's something to be said about just coming from my own experience of being like younger, the things that you think that you would do, what's in your mind. And then you grow and you're like, oh, I got to get a job. I got to work 9 to 5. I've got to pay these bills. I've got to get this kind of car. I got to have this kind of life because this is what everybody else is doing around me. And you lose so much of yourself.
Yeah.
And you might not have a ton when you're chasing your dreams, but it's like, what are you measuring it by? Mm-hmm. Like, what are these things? What's more important to you? And so just from my own experience of coming from that, my life is so much richer from going and doing these things than it could ever be. I think of myself like working at a job 9 to 5, 7:30 to 5 every day. And I remember that. And the person I am today, I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's two completely different people. And I think that you just have to stop putting restrictions, I guess, on yourself, of thinking like, what's important? What are my passions? And what are we measuring this by? Who told me that my life has to be this way? Why are we taking one picture and putting it beside the next and saying, this is what I have to have? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and it takes some guts to ask yourself that question. Like, where did this come from? Why do I think like this?
I feel like people should take advantage of the world that we're living in now, if that makes any sense, where it's capable for creative people to make a living. And it's like, why aren't you taking the chances of doing something that you're passionate about because you're afraid of failure, what the next person would think, or not having these things? And I think if it's important enough to you, you kind of move your life around a little bit to make room for those things that you're passionate about. Even in my own life, Haiti's not the only thing I'm passionate about, so it's like finding a balance of, okay, I'm going to do the Haiti stuff. I'm married. I want to be a good mom. But there's other things I like to do too, and making room for those so you can be happier, like real happy. And then the other people around you can be happy too because you're happy. Because if you're in a crappy mood, people around you.
Crappy and happy.
Yeah.
Happy and happy.
Crappy and happy.
Crappy and happy.
Full circle back to crappies and happies.
I'm going to implement that one.
It's so good.
It's really good thing.
I want to ask you what advice you have for people, but I feel like you've given like so much amazing advice already.
Yeah.
So I guess, do you have any other advice that you can think of for people who are maybe just identifying their passion, or they're just, getting ready to take the first step or the next step in whatever their scary thing is? What would you say to them?
Expectations. I feel like you just shouldn't set these expectations for yourself. You should just 100% say, this is what I want to do. And you don't think about tomorrow or the next 5 years or the next 5 days or whatever. And you should just go for it. And another thing is surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded and are going to encourage you in those things, rather than make you think that what you're doing is ridiculous. Because there are a lot of those. And coming from where I was and now, my friend group has gone down a lot, and it's the best thing that I've ever could have done for myself.
That's good advice.
Cull the herd.
I sound like an awful person.
No, I'm just kidding.
But it's true. I mean, it's true.
No.
Cull out the haters from the herd. That's what I mean.
If you're not able to talk about what you're passionate about with the people who are supposed to be your friends, like, what are we doing? What are we doing if our friends aren't at least encouraging us, and we know they have our backs and they're pursuing their own things too,
Right. Like, even if they don't get it at all,
Yeah.
or don't relate, that doesn't mean you can't be encouraging.
You
Yeah.
have to really start questioning the people you're surrounding yourself with. You're just like, you're telling me I shouldn't do this and can't for all the reasons why I'm doing it. Like,
Yeah.
no.
Well, and I think that's the other side of it. Yeah. You already have so much self-doubt probably, or so many reasons in your head why things could go wrong. Like, you don't need more. You do need those people saying, yeah, I think it could work out. Why not?
Exactly. I think that's the number one thing that keeps people, not just, having a certain life, but it's yourself, it's your own mind that's like working against you, telling you, why are you going to do this? Well, your mom didn't do it this way, or so-and-so is doing it this way. And we let those things just like infiltrate everything that we think about. And then you forget who you are. And then 6 years go by and you're still at your desk typing away. And you're like, I could have been doing this. And so that's why I'm just like, just go today and do it.
Yeah.
Love it. Go today and do it.
Go today and do it.
Boom. That's the directive straight from Evanda's mouth.
Yes.
I love it.
So good. Thank you so much for sharing. I am inspired.
Me too.
I'm just going to go cry the rest of the day.
Stop.
I love it.
I actually don't ever cry. I'm serious.
Okay, so we're going to link to Revelator International's Facebook page. Is there anywhere else people can connect with you, or is that the best place?
That's the best place.
Okay.
Facebook. Yep.
Awesome.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Evanda.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man. I wish I could tell you guys what she's doing right now. It's not going to happen.
She's such an inspiration to all of us. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have a second, head over to Spotify to listen to our brand new playlist called Friends and Faves. Check out our show notes for that and other helpful info. See you next week.
And I literally just said 10 minutes ago, I don't ever cry.
Hey, as far as our listeners are going to know, you don't.